Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
And Larry would never go on air and really try to bash and do that, but he started doing it a year ago, and because he went over the history, their quotes, they helped pass the 68 Gun Control Act that started all this instant check and registration we have today. And the Second Amendment is on a razor's edge right now, and they're not even sending the forms out to most of the gun dealers now. The guns are selling out. They're moving against the Second Amendment. You need to be members. They need financial support. They're the only real lobbyists we've got on the Hill. Larry Pratt, give them the number again and tell them how much the memberships cost.
It's all at $20, and you can call and get information for membership at 888-886-GUNS. That's 888-886, and then the letters GUNS. Or they can simply go to gunowners.org, and in addition to that free subscription for the email alerts, anybody can join up there also at that same website, $20. We'd be happy to have them sign up for time payments or full payment as a life member. But we just would like to be able to pay the rent. As a friend of mine said, you can't save the world if you can't pay the rent.
Larry, folks weren't listening last year, but I was talking during the break. A lot of folks are joining now, or at least signing up for the free email alerts, because they now understand we weren't playing games. And we told them last year, the BATF, radically expanding its size, its new building, its harassment. I mean, they are coming for the guns.
Give you another example of what's being done administratively. We were successful in blocking Mike Sullivan, a U.S. attorney from Boston and a personal friend of Ted Kennedy. Well, I'm not sure for how much longer, because Kennedy seems to be in poor health. But in any case, Sullivan was the acting director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And during his hearing to be the full-time permanent director, kind of an appointment as the same as the FBI head, Ted Kennedy said that he looked forward to working with Sullivan on gun control. Well, we were successful in blocking Mike Sullivan from getting a permanent job as the head of the BATFE. But on his way out, on the 14th of January, 6 days before the inauguration of the Messiah, the BATFE filed a notice of proposed rulemaking, which Gun Owners of America will be addressing well before the expiration of time. And in that, it does something that they had been seeking legislatively, because they arguably would have somewhat more justification by law, although there is no law that can justify anything that the BATFE does, because it's an unconstitutional entity. But in any case, this proposed rule would let any unnamed, uncounted bureaucrat in Boise, in Fort Lauderdale, whatever field office that the Bureau might have, yank a dealer's license, and that would be the final word. Well, there goes your, due process. There's not even necessarily any standard procedures.
Stay there. Do 5 more minutes. What's on the side? I want to finish up with this and talk about solutions, but that's what they're wanting to pass a bill where Holder can just ban any guns he wants. It gives him this imperial power. So we see everything being converted to the agencies under the National Security Council having this new unlimited power. Larry Pratt's our guest. Stay with us.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
And I'm going to take 5 calls, cover a news story, take 5 calls, cover a news story. 1-800-259-9231 is the toll-free number to join us. We have an hour and 27 minutes left in this transmission. Larry, I saw him triple the size of the BATFE. I saw him build the biggest federal building anywhere in D.C. I saw Bush support the assault weapons ban. I would have gun show, people argue with me, or the guy at a gun shop argue with me, saying I was a liar. I knew they were harassing gun shops and dealers. I knew they were using extrajudicial, just executive, bureaucratic authority to do this. You were just talking about Holder with a bill introduced to give him unlimited power to ban any guns he wants. It says it in the bill. national registration, national federal testing, psychological records, misdemeanors, can't own a gun, no fly list, can't have a gun. Well, they just put over 1 million Americans innocently on those, a blacklist. All of this is happening, and I keep trying to tell the listeners. Now I guess they're finally listening, record gun sales, but a lot of places they can't buy them. See, I got emails about that, but Larry Pratt wasn't telling me, and I didn't have time to track it down, about how a lot of these gun shops can't even sell guns now because they won't send them the yellow forms. I want to put the call out again to listeners because JPFO makes films, writes books, is more of a think tank studying the gun grabbers, and I know you work with them, Jews Preservation of Firearms Ownership. It's one of the only national organizations other than you, but it's small. You've got 250-something thousand members next to the NRA's 2 or 3 million. It's always changing. And when we say the NRA, and I want you briefly to go into this, but then finish up your story from earlier first about just the bureaucracy, you know, saying we can shut down any gun show or gun shop we want without an arrest, without an indictment, without a claim, just we yank your license, kind of like Americans can't own guns on the new terror watch list, and there's Homeland Security says you won't be able to buy or sell. Your credit cards are going to be turned off. You're like, how do I get off this list? Haven't paid taxes, they're going to turn it off. It's not just the no-fly list, folks. It's a database. There's a lot I'm throwing out here. The point is, one more time, gunowners.org and the toll-free number. If people don't get a $20 membership, if they don't sign up for the free alerts, if they don't become life members, you're the only real big group we've got that I know is good and I know is lobbying and I know has a track record and I know it's always been you guys that have beaten stuff. It hasn't been the NRA. And the people got to know this. So tell folks how to join.
Well, get information through the mail sent to you by calling our toll-free number, 888-888-6-GUNS, or 888 and then 886, and the letters GUNS. But for most people, I think, who have a computer, definitely easiest to go to gunowners.org. There they can get both the email alerts, which is a freebie, and then they can sign up as a member. They'll get a newsletter. They'll get legislative mailings on some of the more proactive projects that we're working on that are not as time-sensitive as the ones that are dealt with by the email, which are things that just come up all of a sudden and have a very short fuse on them. And there'll be things that we just we can't even mail on. There's so many things going on like this. I'm not sure whether we'll ever get to the mail on this notion that the dealers can be shut down now by some unnamed, unspecified, faceless bureaucrat, thousands of them throughout the country, pulling their licenses on really nothing type of complaints. And we've talked about it before. Maybe that they let 3 or 4 customers do an abbreviation for Baltimore, BLTO, instead of writing it out, Baltimore.
Yeah, they're coming in and they're white glove inspecting everything. They're shutting down gun shops everywhere. They've introduced bills to shut down the gun shows, private transfer. But you're saying this was done as he left. They just did it by fiat. No law in Congress, no nothing. This is going on now. Now the gun shops are even in more terror.
Right. It's a proposed rule. There's sometime in April is the deadline for filing comments. We're not going to suggest that most of our members would enjoy writing directly to the Bureau, but we are going to make it so that they can do a little raining of email and comment to their members of Congress, so their members of Congress realize that they don't do something about this. This is just going to be one more reason not to vote for them in 2 years.
Well, absolutely. On the subject, just briefly, the NRA, just give people a snapshot of what you've covered in the past, that this really is a gun control group.
Well, the biggest disappointment was their complete blindness to the Veterans Disarmament Act, as we called it, because it targeted veterans first. You can lose your right to keep and bear arms without even a smidgen of due process. No trial, no jury, no real judge, no real court, no lawyer, no expert witnesses, no cross-examination, no confronting your adversary, your accuser. Just you go before some bureaucrat, and you don't even go before him, actually. In the case of the veterans, if they get a diagnosis that says they have something like post-traumatic stress disorder, that they might be a danger to self or others, boom, they've just lost their gun rights. Again,
and Holder has said they're going to expand this to everybody and even get juvenile crime records and juvenile psychology records. Most of America has been sent to a psychologist at one time or the other because they advertise it's the thing to do. It's over.
The bill that we call the Veterans Disarmament Act, which I repeat, was simply named that by us because they were the first in the crosshairs. But as you're saying, all they need to do is appropriate the money that was authorized in that bill, and they're going to come after everybody else's medical records. It doesn't matter whether they were a veteran or not. All they have to do is have some indication that, as you say, you been to a psychiatrist and he has found in some way that a diagnosis that might make you a danger to self or others.